Hello, welcome to the guide to self-implementation for Cetec ERP. My name is Tanner. I'll help you out today. We are going to import some parts. Now, importing parts is a little tricky. I will not lie to you. There are some nuances here that are important to note, and let's just go ahead and get to it. I assume, rightfully, that you've watched the basics video, data import, understanding the basics on this thread or on this YouTube playlist. So please go check that out if you have not already. That gives you a background out of a lot of the data sets and what some of those primers are. So very, very, very important that you watch that first. So let's import some parts. I'll go to admin, go to APIs and more, and I'll click data import. And I'll go to my trusty folder here, open up my parts import. And before I download this and we look into it, I want to highlight a few things. So when you import parts into Cetec ERP, you're not just importing the part information like the description and the lead time. You certainly do that, right? Description, lead time, unit of measure, right? Purchase unit of measure, shelf life. Those are important points, right? You'll want to import that, certainly. That's like a baseline. But when you import this as well within the same importing tool, it's also importing quantity and cost. So by quantity and cost, I mean how much do you have on hand, and what is the cost history or the actual cost of that inventory? And furthermore, what's the bin location, or where physically do you have this in your inventory? And even furthermore than that, like, do you have a lot code? Do you trace the lot code from the supplier? Like, if so, we want to make sure that we have that. So if you're importing data, if you're importing parts into CTEC, the data here is twofold. It's the baseline information, your basics as basic can get, and it's the inventory of those parts, right? So for this example, you'll see I have the same part listed 3 times over with the same description, with the same lead time, with the same vendor, external key, the same UOM, purchase UOM. That's all the same. But it's listed 3 times over because I store them or I have housed them in different bins that have different lot codes, that have their own bit of traceability and maybe even their own bit of quantity on hand, right? So that's important to note when you're doing your part import. It's not just the baseline info like description and lead time and so forth. It is the inventory. Now, if you're watching this and thinking you're not planning to go live for another few months, my inventory is going to change. Yes, absolutely. It certainly will. It's going to happen, right? Treat this initial import as a first pass. You will be able to delete all of it pretty quickly on a second pass. This import for parts is a great opportunity to see, hey, what does the inventory look like in CTEC when I'm done with it? This will be a good first pass for everybody. So please give this a shot. Don't worry too much about the quantities and the lot codes if you have those. Just give it a first pass and see what happens. Always recommended to do a cycle count or a full inventory if you can before you go live to try to get as close to accurate as possible. And then having a bin naming convention to separate out. Yes, I have different bins because I have different lot codes from when I bought from my suppliers. That's always good, right? So, with all that set, I want to hit some of these prereqs and some of these external keys that are important. You'll note the vendor external key. Let's show that whole thing so you can see that. This is like your preferred vendor who you typically buy it from. You'll note also the location name, not the bin location, but the location name. You'll remember this from the basics video, is that this is the L name location code in that table that's in CTEC ERP that you can edit, right? So that's important to note as well. Another one is the unit of measure and the purchase unit of measure. Those each, in this case, in role of what I buy this in, those are important to note in the import as well, right? These are the standard count of each that I held in on-hand inventory. So I have two of each on hand, right? And then last one I want to note here is the type listed. This type / underscore BC, this is actually a bonus column. Again, you'll know this from watching the bonus column video as well, that this is just a non-standard, non-default field from Cetec ERP that I added to my part records. That type means something to me, and it's just these letters that are important. I can report against them if I want to, but this is important for me to note that type BC is a custom column, right? Now, Let's go ahead and import this. Why not? One small change I want to make, actually. I want to change this to shelf underscore life. That's the actual name in the table. That'll help me out a bit. And I think that's all. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do a download and into Excel. Let's go back to Cetec. Let's select parts, and I'll choose my file, and I'll do part import there. Now, I mentioned this in a previous video on customers and vendor importing and on the basics that there is a way for you to delete all of your part data if you're doing a second, third, fourth pass on this. So don't worry if your first pass is not perfect. If you click delete related data, we're going to yell at you and say, hey, all of this is going to be gone. Do this at your own will. But this is going to delete all of the data from your first pass and your second pass and third pass if you decide to do a final import before going live. Definitely not recommended to do this after you've gone live. So if you're stumbling upon this video thinking, I've been using Cetec for a few months or a few years, I want to import some new parts, do not do this. All of your parts that are existing in the system will be gone, and I certainly will not do this now. Right? I already have some parts in here, so I'm not going to do that. But if you just click that select box there, click OK, we will accept that. Right? So be very careful of what that represents. So parts, here's my file. Let's go ahead and click import. You'll notice again from previous videos, if you have your Excel spreadsheet automatically say or title out the exact name from those templates, it will auto select these drop downs for you. So there's PRC part, location name, bin location, and so forth. There's just a few of these I'm going to triple check just because you can't see them based on the UI there. Quantity, that's all there. We're going to port primary bin. You'll notice the one I changed was shelf life. If I didn't change this and I left it as shelf space life, it would not have selected that for me, but now it did. And then finally, type /BC. I must have typed that in, no pun intended, incorrectly. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here and click type. So that type is a bonus column for me. I know that's a bonus column, and I'll scroll down and click update. Another thing to note, when you import these and you get to this screen here, we'll only display 11 rows. So really just the first 10 rows from your spreadsheet. We are not going to display more than that. There's no need to. If you're importing hundreds and thousands of rows, why would we show them all to you right now in this preview? It's really just the purpose of making sure that they're mapped correctly, right? I'll click update again, just because I'm a bit neurotic on that. And then we'll click finish once that's done. Another thing to note, actually, before I click finish, you may be importing parts with no quantity, and that's fine. You may import parts that don't have a lot code and a bin location, certainly have a description, lead time, vendor external key, and so forth, but have no quantity, and that's completely okay. There are going to be times where you have parts that you purchase that you just don't have any inventory of at any point in time, and that is all right. So I'll click finish there. Now this wasn't very many. How many rows is it? This was 17 parts. Let's go to this part number here. I'll just copy that. So this is running. Yeah, this one. I'm going to take a look at that one here in a second. Let's go there and click on that beaker. Great. So here's my preferred vendor. This is there because I've already imported my vendors with an external key that it's associated in this system. So that's great. Here's my cost. Here's my inventory. UPS 1, UPS 2, UPS 3. That's all there. My costs 252, my unique lot codes. Apologies. Notice this is all set to locked. I have a very, very niche configuration set and turned on. This is one of those instances where I say, oh, darn it, I made a mistake. I'll have to re-import again and make sure that that configuration is not on. You likely will not have to worry about that. So no stress on seeing that locked when you do that on your end. You will likely not see that at all. So yeah, I feel very, very good about this. If I go to, let's scroll up here. Excuse me, this is under parts, list by bin. I can see it in the same way. Go to list by bin, see every part that was created today, and I can see all 17 of those parts total value as well, right? Bonus column was added too. So if I search type, then you'll see the type imported there as well. So not just the basic data or standard data, but that type is a bonus column that I imported. Great. So that's parts. Let's shift over to BOMs as well. So when you import your bill of materials, it is understood that you've already imported the parts associated to those BOMs. Now, if you have not, then we will create the part records as the BOM import tool. So, for example, if I want to import a set of bill of materials, all of the components, all the top level part numbers in that sheet are assumed to already be in my parts list. So TLA 1000. I've already imported this. It already exists, but maybe the bill of material definition doesn't exist, meaning what are the components, any subassemblies as well. Or PRT 45, or let's use PRT 1. PRT 1. I've already imported PRT 1. That already exists somewhere in this long list of 101 parts. Here we go. PRT1 already exists. It's there. I'm happy with that. When I import my BOMs, it's understood that the part record, its description, any inventory I have is already there. I can't hammer this point home enough. The BOM import is simply just the structure and the hierarchy of the bill of materials. No other metadata outside of that. All right, so let's take a look. Let's go to admin, APIs and more, data import, and we will choose BOMs. And we will do my BOM import, and we will download that. And let's go ahead and choose that file. There we go. Now, if you've been following along a few of these videos already, you'll note that I've really been hammering home that you should title your spreadsheet with the exact name in the database from those data templates, which you find under admin, APIs and more, and data import documentation. I did not do that with this one, so that we can see what it would look like if you either forgot or messed up and you just wanted to power through it. I'm still going to deselect the first line, but I have to go through here and represent what each one of these mean, right? So this is my top level part number. This is my top level revision. This is my component PRC part number. This is my quantity per top. This is my component number, component line number, and that's my component revision. There you are. So that didn't take long, but you can see that that may take a lot longer with maybe the part file or the customer or vendor file. So keep in mind, if you set that ahead of time, you're really going to make yourself a bit happier with how much faster that's going to go. Now, again, I'll bring this up that we're only showing 11 here. I've got plenty of other parts within the sheet, but I'm only showing 11 as a preview, and I'll go ahead and click finish. So I'm importing TLA 1000. That part already exists. It already has a description and backing. PRT1, PRT2, those already exist, so I'm okay with that. I am importing specifically Rev 5 of this part. So Rev 5 will be created if it's not already there under the TLA 1000. So when this is done, you can see it's loading in the top left-hand corner. When that's done, I'll go to TLA 1000, look at Rev 5, and then take a peek at that bill of material. Same thing with these others, right? You can see I'm importing some subs. Sub 100, it's Rev 5 and those components. Noticing this is a multi-level bill of materials because I do have TLA 1000 listed 6 times over, and the 6th component is a sub. And because that's a sub, I'm importing sub 100 right afterward. So that's pretty quick. Now, if you've been with us for a little bit, watched a few of the other videos, you'll notice this is actually taking a bit longer. If you look at my BOM import, this is about this is 90 rows, 89 rows of data, and I am creating parts if they don't already exist. I am creating revisions and bills of materials all the way through. So this one is taking a little bit. Envision if you're doing this with hundreds of rows, this may sit for a while here.